Hey guys, I'm Alexis and my daughter is Oaklee Rayne. I started this YouTube channel pretty much to talk about her life and her journey through her heart defect and getting a new heart and all the things that we experienced and what she experienced and how we felt and how our family felt not being able to be there because of COVID and how my friends felt not being able to be there physically for me and having to just be there from the distance. And so we're going to talk about that today. Oaklee Rayne is 9 months old and she is thriving now. She is a whole complete different baby than when and what she went through. So she's unfortunately napping right now. But later on, and I'm going to do several videos. This isn't just going to be the only one, but this one today is pretty much just going to talk about like her main first surgery and how I got diagnosed and kind of from going from there and what happened. And then through other videos, we'll talk more about other surgeries and pretty much just how she ends up doing. And then we'll just make more every week on how her life is now. So Oaklee Rayne was diagnosed in utero at 22 weeks that she had hypoplastic left heart syndrome. I had went to my original checkup with my OBGYN at 19 weeks, and they found that I had a 2-vessel umbilical cord. So from then, I got sent to Birmingham, Alabama, where I went and seen a specialist to do a echo that was like very in-depth. So while I was there, the lady that was doing my echo had, she was like conversating with me pretty well from the beginning, but then when she got closer to Oaklee's heart, she kind of just stopped conversating with me. So she pretty much just went silent and just kept going over Oaklee's heart. And I know that they're not allowed to tell you what's going on, but I asked her anyways out of curiosity. I was like, is everything okay? Like, you just keep going over Oaklee's heart. And she said, well, the doctor will come in and talk to you in a few minutes. And my best friend, Laura Molnar, at the time was with me. And I just remember looking over her and saying, something's wrong. So the echo lady left, and my doctor that I had never met before, no idea who this lady is, had come in and talked to me. She asked me why I was there and if Oaklee was a boy or girl and what I was naming her, you know, just chit-chatting it up before she broke the news to me. So my best friend's holding my hand at this time, and she said, okay, we need to talk. Well, I said, okay. She said, Oaklee has hypoplastic left heart syndrome. And I remember just squalling. I mean, she just said it was a heart defect. I didn't know anything about it. I've never heard of anybody else having that, even though 1 in 100 kids have it. And so many people in our town or very close to our town, kids that had all kind of heart defects that I knew nothing about. So hypoplastic left heart syndrome was new, very, very new to me. So, I mean, I remember just squalling, and she gave me a second to like regather, and I don't think I quit crying that whole appointment. I remember apologizing for crying, and she just kind of explained stuff to me, and she said, I just want to let you know, like, you're going to have to give birth here in Birmingham, and we're just going to have to start completely over on what you're going to do, where you're going to stay. And she said, but Oaklee will go to Children's as soon as she was born. And I said, okay. So I remember calling her dad that day, and I was squalling, and he was like, what's going on? Like, he couldn't understand anything I was saying. So I told him everything that happened, and from there, we went to several appointments in Birmingham, and our very last one, mind you, I was giving birth in the middle of COVID. Oaklee was born on July. So July 20th of 2020 at 7:02 p.m. So I remember going to my last appointment, and they always take me back first to get my blood pressure and stuff. And then they bring me back out, and then they let us both go see her. Well, I remember going in, and I go to get my blood pressure like normal, and I'm expecting to come back out and expecting for him to go back with me and see her for the very last time before we have her. And they take me straight back to the room, and I'm like, can I just call her dad and tell him he can come in here? And she was like, no, ma'am, because of COVID, he's not allowed back here. But we went every appointment together there. Like, so it was overwhelming seeing my kid for the last time, not knowing like what's going to happen at birth. And I had to do it alone. So everything is okay. Like she gets diagnosed with mild hypoplastic left heart syndrome. So meaning that it's not the worst case they've ever seen, but it's not the best case they've ever seen. So I go on, and so July 19th, 2020, I go stay in Birmingham to have her the next morning. So we get in there, and the nurse was like, you're a first-time mama. Don't plan on having her today. And then she said, but I needed to go ahead and warn you, be prepared for her to come out not breathing and be prepared for her to be blue. How do you even prepare yourself for that? Like, you can't. You physically cannot. But thankfully, I gave birth that night, and Oaklee came out breathing on her own, and she had great color. No need of oxygen at all. So I was so, everything was so much because I just had to start pushing because Oaklee was coming. So, everything just happened so fast. And I remember I gave birth to her. They took her over in the room and put her on this thing and was making sure she was okay before they took her to the NICU. And I remember the last time seeing her, not knowing if anything was okay. They took her out in an incubator. That's the very last picture I have of her on my phone before I got pictures with her from her dad going with her. It's her getting wheeled away in an incubator. So she goes to the NICU. They get me all ready, and I get to go over there to see her. She looks great. She just looks like a perfect little healthy baby. So then they ended up taking her to Children's the same night. And so about 11 o'clock at night, we get to go to Children's, meet her for the very first time. And I finally get to hold her, and it was the most amazing thing. I was so excited. So then on July 23rd, 2020, she had her first open heart surgery. And I remember the doctor coming in and him saying, she's going to come back with yellow tape on her chest, and her chest is going to come back open. Well, I'm thinking yellow tape on her chest, you're not going to be able to see anything. That's not the case. I seen her heart beating through her body. But before even seeing that, so the surgery took, I think 6 to 8 hours. It was a really long time. And the surgeon came back out the first time to talk to us, and he was like, everything was satisfactory. She done amazing. But it was a worse case than we detected on the echo when you were pregnant. So I was like, okay. But he said she's fine. So then we leave to go eat so that because it was going to be a little while before they got her back in the room. And I remember them calling me and saying, you need to come back. The doctor needs to speak to you again. And in my mind, I'm just thinking, oh, maybe they didn't realize that we've already spoke to him. I don't know, just maybe. So we get back, and they take us back there, and he come back in, and he said, I just want to let y'all know that Oaklee was bleeding out. So she never made it back to the ICU room, so we had to take her back into surgery and stop the bleeding. So I think she bled for 2.5 hours before they got it to stop. And it's the most sick. I'm trying not to cry because it's the most sickening feeling you can think of. The kid was dying pretty much right there. She was bleeding out. And so from there, they finally got her back in the ICU room, and we go in to see her. And it was the most sickening feeling in my entire life. She was my perfect baby 2 days ago, to her chest wide open and her heart beating out of her body. You could physically see it, and it's the most disturbing thing that I ever seen. But then part of me was so thankful that I seen it, because it made the next day seeing her so much easier. But I remember looking at her for the first time, and her dad went and sat on the couch, and I just walked over there, and I just lost it. You shouldn't be seeing your baby at 3 days old with her chest wide open. You just shouldn't. It's not fair. So, Oaklee had so many complications after that. She had, and I'm probably going to say this wrong, but diagnostic failure, where her heart was really swollen at one point, and they were really nervous about it. They didn't know what was going to happen to her. But not only that, there were so many things that were not normally planned for a baby that had hypoplastic left heart syndrome that happened for Oaklee. So despite all the things, Oaklee gradually got better. She was taking her bottle fantastically, taking meds by mouth, doing great. And after a long month, we were told that we were getting to go home. So we were about to start the rooming in process, where you have to prove to them that you can take care of your baby before you go home. So August 24th of 2020, we go in, we go get our stuff, pack it up. we're packing it up for her dad to take it home so he can go home with her in 2 days. We pack it all up. Everything's in his truck to go home, and we get there to start our rooming in process, and the nurse said, hey, Oaklee threw up this morning. Just wanted to let y'all know. And to me, she used to get potassium, and it was terrible. So I can only imagine that. I thought, she just threw up her potassium. No big deal. Like, it's okay. So she's acting fine, doing great, and we go on from there. And her dad leaves to go take our stuff home because we were just going to go home and we were going to be together and love her because we knew we were about to have to go back through this in just a few weeks afterwards for her next procedure. So he's gone home, and I remember letting Oaklee see the outside. We were still in the room, but like opening all the blinds and letting her see the outside for the first time. And it's so funny. She's like so overwhelmed. Like she's never seen the outside, so it was so crazy to her. So Oaklee gets a bottle that day, and the echo lady comes in just to do an echo just because she had thrown up that morning to be precautious. So she gets her echo done, and I go to lay her in her mama-roo in front of me so I can eat real quick. And Oaklee throws up everywhere. I mean, all over her, all over me. She is just projectile vomiting. So I scream for the nurse, and the echo lady goes and gets the nurse. And they come back up and they hook her up on the monitor. She's fine. But after she threw up, she stayed the color gray. She never recovered from the color gray. It was really concerning. So the cardiologist comes in and talks to me. And he goes, I just wanted to let you know that her echo didn't look great. And I was like, okay, so what's the plan? He said, y'all just won't be going home anytime soon. We need to figure out the next step soon. And I was like, okay, like that's okay, it happens. I mean, so then the doctor and the nurse, Dr. Rhodes was our doctor that day, and the nurse had come in, and I remember Dr. Rhodes sitting beside me because they let me hold Oaklee again in the chair, and I was just rocking her, and she said, Alexis, I just wanted to let y'all know, y'all aren't going to be going home anytime soon. She said, Oaklee's echo looks absolutely terrible. We've got to intervene now. And I remember just crying because, we were so close to going home, so close. And it just broke my heart, but I was so thankful we were still there instead of at home. So I remember calling her dad, and I was crying, and I was like, we're not going home anytime soon. And he was like, why? Like, what's going on? And I was like, Oaklee's echo come back, and it was horrible. And he was like, he just was speechless because, we were excited to take our baby home. And so I remember the doctor walking out, and there was, a team of people talking, trying to figure out our next step. And she asked me to lay her back in the bed. And so I'm sitting on the couch, and she comes in, and the nurse comes in, and I remember her looking dead at me and saying, she looks gray and horrible. Did she look like that when she threw up? And I said, yes, ma'am. She's not recovering. She's not gaining color back, but I don't know why. And literally, I'm going to cry because it's so hard to talk about. Seconds later, I remember hearing the doctor look at the nurse and say, hand me some epi. And she handed her some epi, and as soon as the doctor got the epi in her hand, Oaklee flatlined. And, every number on her screen just went zero. It was the most sickening feeling because I got stuck on the couch, sitting there because she hit the code button, the doctor did, and I remember everybody running in there, and it was so overwhelming. I couldn't physically go up and save my baby, so I was having to let her sit there and them intervene for me. But, as a mama, I should be able to take care of my baby, but in that moment, I couldn't. And I remember being stuck in there, and everybody's, running in the room. There's so many people. I don't even remember. There was just, everything was happening so fast. I was, getting physically sick because so much was going on. And the cardiologist runs and grabs me, and I have to run through, all these people, and he puts me in this room right beside Oaklee's room. So I'm hearing, hand me this, give me this, give me this. And I remember one of the nurse practitioners, Ashley, grabs my phone and she said, put Trent's number on here. So I remember clicking Trent's name and she calls him and she says, Trent, you need to come back. Oaklee's not okay. And she hangs up the phone and she hands it back to me and she runs back in the room. And at this point, I'm sitting in a room by myself. I don't know what's going on. I'm hearing, hand me this, hand me this, hand me this. And it's like, I'm living in a nightmare at this point. I'm sitting in a room not knowing if my baby's gonna wake up, if she's gonna live. And the next person that walks in was a doctor named Dr. Mendoza. And she sits down beside me and she said, Alexis, I just want you to know they're starting chest impressions on Oaklee. And I remember just squalling. And I just looked at her and I said, is my baby gonna make it? And she said, I honestly can't answer that question right now. And I've never felt more helpless or worthless in my entire life than I did that day. Because I couldn't save my baby. Like, I couldn't do nothing for her. And I'm stuck in a room beside her by myself while I'm hearing people do stuff to her, not knowing if she was going to make it. And when I say that I've never been so sick in my entire life, I was so physically sick. Because as a mama, you're supposed to save your baby. You're supposed to be able to make everything happen, regardless of what it is. And I couldn't. And, you know, I'm glad that they were the ones doing the things. Because I could only imagine, like, if we were at home and I had to try to save her life, like, it's just so much. But I remember they ended up getting her brought back. And, I think they done a total of 5 minutes on chest compressions, and they brought her back, and they got her stable. But a number that we followed from day one was a lactation number, and it needed to be under 2. Well, Oaklee's ended up getting to 26 that night. That means her body just couldn't take anything anymore. Like, everything was fighting against her. So it was her weak body trying to fight to stay alive, and it just wasn't happening. So at that point, they put her on life support. And those were the absolute worst days of my entire life. It felt like she was on life support for 7 million years, I feel like. But she was only on it for 8 days. But I remember one day the doctor had come in and she said, you know, her kidneys had taken a really big hit. And it don't look like she's having a hard time recovering. So I just want y'all to know that there's going to be some big decisions y'all are going to have to make in the next few days. And we knew, and we agreed, and her dad told me that he would back me up on any decision I made. But we both agreed that we were not going to let her lay there and be a vegetable. That if she was not going to have any life to live, then we were just going to let her go. We didn't want her to suffer. It wasn't fair to her. Like, it wasn't. So, I remember me and her dad sitting there talking about what we were going to tell our family. And, that week, we texted our family and told them they needed to come to Birmingham, that we needed to talk. And I remember sitting in this room with all of our family, and, I couldn't even speak. Like, I just let her dad say everything. But he told everybody, you know, we were going to have to make a decision soon, and the decision where we were going to pull the plug if we knew she had no chance of life. Like, we were going to pull the plug. So all I can remember is sitting there thinking that I'm about to have to plan my, like, 1-month-old's funeral. Like, that's not fair. And I've never felt so guilty in my life for her having to go through what she went through. It wasn't fair to her, but Oaklee recovered, and Oaklee wanted to be here, and Oaklee showed up and she showed out, that's for sure. But she had came off life support on the 8th day, and I remember holding her for the first time, and let me tell y'all, I was a hog to my baby. I held her 24/7, it felt like. At one point, they told me that I needed to lay her in her bed so she wouldn't be used to being held all the time. And she was sitting in my lap for the very first time, and I remember her foot going. And I'm thinking, we used to watch, like, her eyes beat to her heartbeat. So that's what I'm thinking, no big deal. But I mentioned it to her nurse, and her nurse calls the doctor in there to tell her what's going on. Well, of course, Oakley's Oakley, so Oakley stops doing it when the doctor comes in. So the doctor said if she does it again, just get it on video. So Oakley does it again, and we get it on video, and the doctor sends it to neurology, and Oakley is seizing. So, which was crazy because none of her numbers changed, just her leg was moving. So it was super crazy. And that night, she ended up getting put on an EEG machine, and I just remember this so vividly. I remember the doctor saying, do not sit there and try to Google how to figure out that screen, or you're going to be worried about it all night long. The first thing me and her dad done was Googled how to figure out how to read that screen. And they were pushing phenobarbital like crazy. Because Oakley wasn't like, she was still seizing on the screen. I mean, when they start seizing on the screen, the whole screen goes like this. And it's just, oh wow, it's so crazy watching. I remember we were rounding one night, and I think it was the same night, and I looked at them, and I was like, she's seizing on the screen, she's seizing on the screen, and they were like, Alexis, I see that, it's okay. And they handled it, they got her to unseize. So they took her for an MRI after that, and she ended up having a stroke, and it affected her left side of her brain and her right side of her body, and it affected a big portion of her brain, but she ended up doing really well and recovering off of it. She just lost her sense of swallowing, sucking, and breathing at the same time, but she done pretty well. But at that point, they are trying to make her gain weight after all of this goes on, because she needs to go ahead and have her next surgery, because she's not going to make it without it. So she has it at the baseline of when you can actually get the surgery. But that is just like the main part of her first month of life, and I want to do these in segments, so I'm not going to talk about the neck surgery yet. So I'm going to stop this one right here, and I want y'all just to remember to hug your babies tight. Like, I do have Oakley now, and I'm so thankful, but like then sitting back, and I remember this girl, I seen this girl post on Facebook one night, and she was like talking about how she was going out and doing all these things with her friends, and somebody commented on it and was like, where's your kid? Why do you never have your kid? And, I don't know her circumstances, and I don't know what she's going through, but I really wanted to just reach out to her and be like, I would give anything to hug my baby right now. I would give anything to hold my baby right now. Please think about things like that before you miss out on everything. We missed out, and not necessarily missed out on anything in Oakley's life, but there was a lot of stuff that Oakley didn't get to do that normal babies did, despite everything she went through. So it was hard. It was hard watching all these other babies. Like, all my friends had babies, which I love being an aunt, so it's okay. But all of my other friends had babies that were thriving and doing great. And I remember talking to some of my friends, and I was like, they were like, what can we do for you? And I said, hug your babies tight, please. I wish I could hold Oakley right now. Like, just love your baby. Remember, when you get mad, it's just the moment. Everything's going to be okay. Don't get mad at your baby. Like, there's people out here that actually lose their kids to these heart defects and don't get to love their babies. So just remember that when you feel frustrated with your kid, love your baby. Because there's parents now that are burying their kids, whether it is them having a heart defect or any little thing. Some mama right now is having to let her baby go, and she don't get to hug her baby ever again. So remember that. when you're choosing everything else over your kid. Because, you know, some mama wish they were at home every day with their baby, loving their baby, but they don't get that opportunity. So, but our next segment is going to be on her Glenn surgery, which is the one right after her Norwood. So, y'all just go like this video, share it, comment, whatever you want to do. And her next video is going to be on the next surgery and how that went for her. And then we're going to talk about some other heart mamas and what they went through. And then I'm going to interview some friends that didn't get to be, and family that didn't get to be there because of COVID for us. And just see how they felt and how they handled what they handled. So, thank y'all for checking out this video.